Have we distributed copies? They are distributed. So about a minute more. Just this side also, please. Ramni ji will need more. I'll get it. I'll get it. We just circulate. Any friends who have not got, we just circulate some more.
Let's start. Good evening to all of you. In a short while from now, the woes of demonetization should come to an end. The Honorable Prime Minister had asked for time until December 30. According to the Prime Minister, who said at a rally on December 27, through the note ban, in one stroke, we destroyed the world of terrorism, drug mafia, human trafficking, and underworld, unquote. It is therefore fair to expect that all the above objectives will be achieved by the end of today. It is fair to expect that beginning Monday, January 2nd, 2017, all restrictions on money imposed on November 8 will be removed and the people will be able to withdraw the money in their bank accounts. It is fair to expect that there will be no queues outside bank branches and ATMs. It is fair to expect that all ATMs will be open round the clock and fully stocked with currency notes. It is fair to expect that the bank branch will pay out the money written on the check and not direct the drawer to write another check for a smaller amount. I wish I could hold out assurances on these matters, but none of us on the opposition can, because the government has dubbed all of us in the opposition as supporters of black money hoarders and tax evaders. Therefore, the only person who can assure the people on these matters is the Honorable Prime Minister, and I would urge him to do so. When the Prime Minister addresses the nation tomorrow or on any other day, the people expect that he will make a categorical announcement that all restrictions on money have been ended. When I addressed the media on November 9, I had said that if the objectives are to unearth and stamp out black money and put an end to corruption, the Congress party would fully support the objectives. However, I had cautioned that none of the stated objectives is likely to be served through demonetization. Events of the last 50 days have proved us correct. Hordes of black money in new rupees 2000 notes have been found. Bribes have been given and taken in new rupees 2000 notes. There is no guarantee that black money will not be demanded or generated in future, or that bribes will not be given or taken in future in the new currency notes. I had also cautioned that the test of demonetization lies in the manner in which it will be implemented. It is now abundantly clear that the whole exercise was undertaken without forethought and planning, without consulting key officials, without understanding the crucial role of money in circulation, and without assessing the capacity of the currency printing presses to supply new notes. Besides, the seizure of bundles of new 2000 rupee notes is clear evidence of corruption at the level of the RBI, the currency chest, and the bank branches. Altogether, the whole exercise has been a case of total mismanagement administrative collapse, and widespread corruption. In the last 50 days, the people have been put to enormous hardship and suffering. Among the worst affected are farm laborers, daily wage earners, the self-employed, and those who run micro, small, and medium businesses. Many of them have been economically ruined. They will require help to rebuild their lives. Yet, so far, the government has not uttered a word about compensating the people for the economic losses heaped upon them by demonetization. The government has tried to change the narrative from black money and corruption to a cashless economy. No economy can become or has become totally cashless. We support encouraging high-value transactions to adopt the digital mode, but to insist that even low-value transactions should go cashless is an absurd and undesirable goal. There are serious issues of privacy and cost to the payer and the payee. These issues require serious debate. Let me conclude by reminding you that the Congress Vice President Shri Rahul Gandhi raised some pertinent demands 2 days ago. The government is obliged to respond to those demands. In addition, I would demand that the government and the RBI make public 1. The agenda note and the minutes of the meeting of the Board of Directors of RBI held on November 8, 2016, and 2. The note for Cabinet on demonetization placed before the Cabinet on November 8, 2016. I wish all of you a very happy New Year.
Finance Minister Mr. Jaitley yesterday said that the people of the country in large measure has supported this demonetization move, and to reinforce this point, he said that there has not been a single incident of unrest across the country. What is your comment?
What are the people supposed to do? They have to access their money. They have to get the money to keep the home fires burning. So what will they do? Throw stones at people? Or beat up the bankers? I think there's a mistake in assuming that people who are patient are not angry.
Sir, the finance minister has also said that indirect taxes and direct tax collections have gone up. He has made that claim yesterday. Any comment on that?
Going by the budget papers and the numbers put out by the finance minister, I think the increase in direct taxes is more or less as projected in the budget. The increase in the case of indirect taxes is to a considerable extent attributed to the increase in levies on petroleum, diesel and petroleum products. I will, however, concede that some boost in tax revenues may have happened, because once you say that illegal tender can be used to pay taxes, people will obviously seize the opportunity to pay arrears of taxes by using tender which has been declared illegal. That will happen whenever you do it and wherever you do it.
But sir, the finance minister's point was not just mere increase of tax revenue. What he said was that assessment can be untrue or unreal, but revenue figures are real. And there have been far too many naysayers saying that the economy will go through a contraction. So his whole argument was that it hasn't happened.
Increase in tax revenues has no direct correlation to the performance of the GDP. Numerous analysts and numerous agencies have predicted or forecast that the GDP will take a hit. The RBI has said that the GDP will take a hit by 0.5%. So I think the finance minister should pose his questions to the RBI, and the RBI should answer that question.
Ashish Singh.
What is your opinion about the fight against terrorism? This was also one of the objectives announced by Prime Minister. And sir, do you think this is perhaps the single biggest economic failure of the Modi government?
Well, I don't know what other failures are in store for the next 2.5 years, so I can't yet say single biggest failure. But clearly, this is the single biggest case of total mismanagement, administrative collapse, and widespread corruption. And this is perhaps the most momentous decision taken without consulting key officials who are directly, by virtue of the office they hold, directly connected with this decision. You know who I am mentioning.
So how about the terrorism question, sir? That was also one of the objectives announced.
Well, initially they said that terrorists were being funded by fake currency. But in Bandipur in Jammu and Kashmir, new 2,000 rupee notes were found on the bodies of 2 people who were presumed to be infiltrators and potential terrorists. There is no evidence that terrorism is funded only by fake currency. Terrorism is also funded and can also be funded by the new currency. And if you are referring to the Jammu Kashmir situation, the fact is that in Jammu and Kashmir, since September 30, the date of the surgical strike, 33 security personnel have lost their lives, and as on December 25, the death toll of security personnel in the year 2016 is 87, which is double the death toll of 2015. So pre-September 30 and post-September 30, you can draw your own conclusions. I think the situation has become worse, not better. And certainly, the stated objective that all infiltration will come to an end has not happened.
Sales are down. It includes November, it includes December. So the major quarter, the fourth quarter is still to come. So these 2 quarters, how much percentage you see this will bring down the GDP? And sir, when do you see, because they have also, to a certain extent blamed the opposition that they are not allowing us to work on GST. So when do you think that GST would be the right date for GST when they would implement it?
Why would they blame the opposition? Have they brought a bill on GST before Parliament? Was there a bill in the last session of Parliament? They have not even concluded their deliberations with the state finance ministers. The 3 bills are not ready. No draft of the bill has been submitted to Parliament. So I think it's totally incorrect and unfair to blame the opposition for the non-passage of the GST bills, because there is no bill to pass at the moment. As far as hit on the GDP is concerned, as I said, there are different estimates. The estimates vary from 0.5% made by the RBI to 2% made by Dr. Manmohan Singh. Now, where it will ultimately fall, I cannot say, but the consensus appears to be that the GDP will take a hit of at least 1%, and that means 1.5 lakh crore rupees. 1% of GDP means 1.5 lakh crore rupees.
Sir, the RBI,
I'll come to you, ma'am.
Sir, the RBI Financial Stability Report has cited that demonetization coupled with GST has the potential to transform Indian economy completely. Your comments?
We've had distinguished line of governors in the RBI Let me begin with Dr. Rangarajan. Then we had Dr. Bimal Jalan for nearly 7 years, Dr. Reddy for 5 years, Dr. Subbarao for 5 years, Dr. Raghuram Rajan for 3 years. If you add up these numbers, for nearly 20 years, none of them thought that demonetization was a way to turn around the economy. I must compliment Dr. Urjit Patel, who within 62 days after taking over, hit upon the idea that demonetization is a way to turn around the economy.
So my question is that the step of the demonetization has its political dimension. You are economists as well as politicians. My question is
I'm neither.
how you are
I'm just here as a spokesman of the party.
how you are viewing this impact in the coming elections, especially of the states.
I don't know. People vote on a multiplicity of issues. I don't think people vote on one issue. People vote on a multiplicity of issues. And let them vote, we'll see.
Ma'am,
This is Meenakshi from Times Now. I have a question. So in the past also you had emphasized the need for this RBI note to be brought into public domain.
Yes.
Again today you raised the issue. What is the doubt, sir, in your mind that the government somewhere has not taken RBI into confidence? And one quick second question to that, sir. The government says that all is well. The common man, the traders, in spite of suffering some loss of business, are not entirely unhappy. That's only the opposition which is raising over something which they willingly want to do for the larger.
Well, let me take your second question first. I take about 4 or 5 papers a day. Page 4 of the Hindu every day. I think page 4 or 6 of the Times of India every day. Page 2 and page 3 of the Indian Express every day. I see pictures of long queues. I see pictures of old people, some standing, some sitting on their haunches to collect their pension. I see a report that only 35 to 40% of ATMs are functioning. Day before yesterday in my constituency, Karaikudi, I sent out a photographer at 9:30. 25 ATMs, every one of them closed. I showed pictures. It was published in one of the newspapers. I see a mother complaining that she couldn't take her child to a hospital and the child died because she had no money. Reports are over 100 people have died standing in queues. And yet the government will say that people are happy. Then we have to conclude that the people of this country are happy being poor, happy being deprived of their money, happy losing their child, happy not collecting their pensions. We have to reach that conclusion. Whether people are happy or not, time will say. People are patient. But please don't mistake a patient people for a happy people. On your first question. Oh, the RBI note. Well, the RBI board, according to my information, met at about 5:30. And the meeting wound up in about 30 minutes. RBI board should have 14 directors. They have not filled 10 posts in the last 2.5 years. Only 4 non-official directors were invited to the meeting. Only 3 attended. So what I want to know is, how did these 3 wise men and the RBI governor reach the conclusion in 30 minutes that 86% of the currency in this country should be demonetized? I want to know what was placed before the board, what is the agenda note, what facts were placed, what was discussed. Was there any dissent? Did anyone vote against the decision? We are a free country. I believe we are still a free country. And someday or other, this information must be made public. It can't be locked away in an archive. RBI is obliged to disclose what happened at that meeting. And within minutes of the meeting coming to an end, the recommendation is sent to the cabinet. The cabinet is in waiting. The cabinet approves it in barely another half an hour. And then the Prime Minister goes on air and makes the announcement. It appears to me not a process which took its natural course, but a command performance where everything was pre-scripted and everyone was asked to play his role. So let's have the note placed before the board of RBI, and let's also have the cabinet note placed before the cabinet. We will know what information was shared with the board of RBI and with the ministers of the government.
So what do you think should be the budget?
After her, I'll come to you.
So the surest way of finding out whether people are happy or not is an election. Now, where the government is concerned, they claim that there was an election in Chandigarh and in Maharashtra, civic elections, and where the BJP won in both the states.
I don't agree. I don't think people vote on a single issue. I've answered that question earlier. In Gujarat, the BJP won 1,090 seats. Congress won 890. Nationalist Congress Party won 773 or 573. And the Shiv Sena, which opposes demonetization, won about 400 or so. So are you saying that 1,090 places where the BJP won, they support demonetization? And the 890 places where the Congress won, they oppose demonetization. The 700 places where the NCP won, they oppose demonetization. These are very simplistic analysis. I don't accept it.
Sir,
Sorry, after you.
now since the demonetization has happened and the people, as you say, are bearing the brunt of the economy, so what do you think the government should do in the budget? Should it reduce taxes for, and GST is also has a very blurry picture, so what do you think the government should do the taxes spent in the budget?
I don't know what the government will do. Oh,
What is your reading, sir?
I don't know. I don't know what the government will do. Unless we have numbers close to the budget, we can't even speculate on how much room the government has to do the things it may want to do. But one thing I don't want the government to do is to think of another quote-unquote surgical strike.
Gadare Sahab, I'll come to you, ma'am, after. I've been waiting. Yes, they both are waiting, and I'll come to you after.
I don't know. I don't know. All I'm saying is that the expression surgical strike should put all surgeons to shame.
Ma'am,
There's an ordinance that is being brought on old notes and the birthday of citizens responsibility of old notes. Then we are talking of belonging property. Every day we have some minister or the prime minister himself using a language of some sort of threat that if everybody be there. What is this punitive sort of a regime that is being run? What does it do to my rights as a citizen? In terms of financial independence, in terms of transacting my business. Who is the government to stop my business and accessing my money? Could you please comment?
Just to supplement that, can you just comment on the legality of the
Yeah.
Well, the ordinance is a legal requirement. The governor has said, I promise to pay the bearer. That promise has to be annulled. It can only be annulled by a law made by Parliament. The ordinance is a precursor to a law to be made by Parliament. They should have actually brought this on November 8, but they're bringing it with retrospective effect. Once they declare something illegal, you have to impose some kind of a punishment. I mean, that's a sequitur. It's completely meaningless to say, I'll send somebody to prison for 4 years. That's completely meaningless. It's another mindless, meaningless piece of drafting by the law department. So once you say something is illegal, since you have to impose a punishment, they should have simply said, if anyone is found possessing that scrap of paper, because it's no value, will be sent to prison for 1 month or 2 months. So while the ordinance is a legal requirement, the punishment of 4 years is completely absurd. Now, as far as the other question is concerned, yes, I think the space for individual freedom, privacy, and the various rights that we cherish is indeed shrinking. We had cautioned the people of India that it will shrink under an RSS BJP dispensation. This is the RSS BJP dispensation is a majoritarian, coercive system of governance. So this is a manifestation of a majoritarian, coercive system of governance.
Sir, Venkataraman from Bihar. Since the way you demanded the RBI agenda and the government cabinet, you also demanded the demands of the former Chief Minister Jayalalitha. Now, a lot of such
We are only discussing demonetization here today. Sorry,
Dada.
Right now being conducted in Tamil Nadu Chief Secretary.
it's not related to demonetization.
Dada at the back.
When you were saying that there are serious issues of right on the digital economy.
Yes,
There are serious issues of privacy and cost to payer and the payee.
yes.
So it's lack some kinds of a scandal.
No, there's no scandal. These are serious issues.
Government is promoting certain companies, certain institutions,
No.
certain multinational companies to get business out of
Please reflect on those two statements. When I have a chance, I'll perhaps write a whole column on the challenge to privacy. I'll write a whole column on the challenge to cost. But I want you to reflect on it. Serious issues of privacy. If a young adult wants to buy lingerie, or tobacco, or condoms, or liquor, if a young couple want privacy and go off on a holiday, why should the government know about all these things? If an elderly person wants to buy adult diapers or medicines for his ailment, why should the government know all these things? There are serious issues of privacy. In the US, 46% transactions are by cash. In Germany, one of the most developed countries in the world, 80% of transactions are by cash. Austria is 80%. Australia is 60%. France is 56%. We are not against digital transaction. High value transactions must be nudged into the digital mode. Buying property, selling property, buying high value jewelry, paying certain taxes, all that can be pushed to the digital mode. But if I want to buy personal effects, if I want to buy vegetables, if I want to buy something in a village market, why should that be moved to digital mode? And if you reflect carefully on the statements I've made, there are serious issues of privacy, there are serious issues of cost to the payer and the payee. I don't have the time to elaborate on the second one, but I could and I will on a suitable occasion.
Karthik.
Sir, most of the ministers in their press conferences have been saying that the property transaction act was passed by the Congress, but in its entire tenure of 10 years did not notify the your response.
Well, I think the act was, my recollection, I don't know the details. The act was challenged in the Supreme Court. There was a challenge pending, and I think some rules were struck down, some rules had to be made, etc., etc. Let's see what the rules they make. We are not against the Benami Property Unlawful Transactions Act. We support that act, but let us see what the contents of the act are.
Sir, I just want to come back to an issue that you had raised as Home Minister, and you had several communications with Nilekani over the Aadhaar and the data that needs to be protected from being put out in public domain. What do you have to say that now the government is actually encouraging private players to accept Aadhaar-enabled payment services and doesn't compromise my biometrics?
I don't know the current state of play. The point we were making is the Aadhaar, the UIDAI was collecting 5 fields of information before providing Aadhaar. the RGI was collecting 15 fields of information before authenticating that person's Aadhaar. Now, where is this data stored today? I don't know. Maybe part of it is stored with the UIDA, part of it stored with the RGI, part of it may be stored digitally, part of it may not be stored digitally. The point we were making then, and I continue to make that point, is while Aadhaar is certainly an empowering and enabling tool which we must adopt, and that is why we strongly supported Aadhaar when the BJP opposed Aadhaar. They fielded some very important people to rubbish it. Be that as it may, while we strongly support Aadhaar as the unique identification for every citizen or every resident, we are equally clear in our mind that the data must be protected. While the UIDAI and or the RGI or whoever may authenticate the use by a person by accessing the Aadhaar number, the data must be protected. Breach of that data, breach of data privacy is a serious issue. This is a serious issue all over the world, and we must ensure that there is no breach either voluntarily or even involuntarily by hacking.
Samia.
So you were the Home Minister when the Maligaon probe was underway.
No, let's confine this to demonetization.
Pallavi, I'll come to you.
As we speak, the Prime Minister was speaking at a digital camp, and even earlier, I think you heard his speech in Kashi where he took reference to you, to Rahul Gandhi, and Dr. Manmohan Singh, saying that every time the Prime Minister pushes for a digital economy, you guys question that India is not ready for it, and the Congress was in power for over 60 years. So what were you doing? That's one question. Second is that he says those who are opposing demonetization are the ones who are supporting black money, and they themselves are scam taken.
I think you came late. It's in my statement. I've said so. We are all supporters of black money hoarders and tax evaders, and therefore we are not competent to answer some questions. Therefore, I appeal to the Prime Minister to assure the people of this country that all restrictions on money will come to an end at 5 p.m. today, and on Monday we can walk to our banks and collect all our money.
Last question.
Mr. Chidambaram, I have a question. Rahul Gandhi has been talking about Birla Sahara payoff for so many.
Let's confine this only to demonetization, please.
Finance Minister, would you like to comment on the authenticity of this charge?
I can't comment on anything which I have neither seen nor reflected upon. Today I've come to speak to you only because at 5 p.m. today there'll be a dawn of freedom in 10 minutes.
Thank you. Last question from him. One of us.
Chidambaram, you are an advocate also. I have a small question. Like, you are saying that we are in a democracy. Is it true? It's violation of human rights. Where is even your parliament is not taking into confidence. This is democracy, and if a common citizen who is, his human rights is being violated, he wants to lodge a case against whom he will not. Is that the Prime Minister or the Finance Minister or Finance Secretary or RBI Governor?
I think you should try all of them. Okay. Thank you very much. Once again, I wish you a very happy new year. And I wish that my wish for a happy new year comes true.